Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Today I'm gonna announce a very special guest. Wait, what's your last name?
Benuelos.
Benuelos? Did I say it right?
Yeah.
Okay. Today I'm gonna introduce to you a special guest. She's like one of the most energetic people I've ever met. Always smiling, happy. Jasmine.
Yay!
Benuelos!
Benuelos!
Welcome. Oh my God. So, just like one of the most genuine people I've ever met in my life. So let's get into it. Jasmine. So you are like always happy, right? Why are you always happy? Were you always this way?
No. I think this is a front that I think a lot of people who struggle with mental illness, like it's kind of like a coping mechanism. It's like you're trying to be that motivation for other people when it's so hard for you to be yourself. I think what really started this entire thing was me going to India and seeing just how blessed we are in this country, because I think we get so caught up in the things we don't have versus the things we do have, and that's
Definitely.
I think that's a mentality we need to switch here in America, because I think we do grow up with a lot of advantages and we don't recognize that we can take advantage of all these things, and yet so many people die and kill themselves and all these things. So
yeah, it's crazy because me coming from South Africa and being in America, I realized there's a lot of opportunities.
Yes.
You know, I realize it almost every single day, but for you it's the opposite. You were born here and you didn't really see the world until you turned how old?
well, I started traveling when I was just 4 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah. So it started right after high school. I think this entire process has been, I think life in general, it's like, I thought it was like this, you know, it's like, hey, graduate high school, I'm going to get a family, then I'm going to get married, and just like all these things. And really life is more up and down, and it's learning how to navigate through that.
Yeah.
I think life is all about detours, and it's all about learning and making every day a purpose. Like, okay, what am I supposed to learn today from, because like, you know how Dakota said everything in my life is my fault.
Yeah.
And it's kind of hard to accept that at a point, because it's like, no, I don't want to be like that. Like, I'm not going to blame like my misery on myself, but it's really recognizing that you do have power and control over your feelings, over, I mean, obviously you can't, how do you say, like, control what other people's behavior are, but you can see how you react to it. And that's, I think, the most important thing.
Definitely. So before you left America for India, that was the first country you went to, right? No,
I went to Mexico first.
Okay. Yeah, so before you left America for Mexico, what did you think the outside world was like, or did you even think about it?
I've seen pictures and videos of Mexico, but I was never really involved in it. And I think when I did go through the very first time, it was with my best friend, and so it was supposed to be like this really fun trip. I first went there, we stayed in a resort for 2 weeks, so now that I like have experienced living with the locals, it's like I was just in a little bubble there. And I think that's what a lot of Americans do. They stay and they go to resorts and they just stay where like they're from, where people are familiar and what they're used to. And when I came back, I felt like I don't know, I was just like, I mean, that was nice, but I don't feel like I really gained anything from it. And so I'm a very purpose-driven person, and so some people like to vacation to relax. I'm more of those people, it's like I want to learn from what that environment is. And so it wasn't until I actually started staying with my family in Mexico and started to see like my cousins on that side, not just talking to them over the phone, how's it going, but living in their house and living their day-to-day tasks and doing what they do. And it just has evolved. And then over time, it was just, I wanted to go out by myself and really experience the world, because I got to a point where I didn't feel like I had a purpose anymore.
Wow, that's deep. So you mentioned that you're purpose driven, like almost everything you do is like thought out in advance, right? There's a bigger picture. I'm very similar in that I write my goals or my outcome way before the actual action is taking place, because I want to know exactly where I'm going and why I'm doing this, because once I make that clear, then the whole journey makes so much sense. Even when like I'm going through some things like like some personal things, and I don't want to wake up every morning and then I'm like, why am I doing this? But I actually already know the reason because I've already set that out, you know? So what is your biggest purpose right now?
Like I said earlier, before we started recording, it's really becoming the best version of myself. So what happened was, and this has all started making sense. I think it's like being vulnerable to the point where it's like, where your knees hit the ground and you're like, well, how did I get here? What is wrong? Like, I did everything I was supposed to do and you're still unhappy. And so I started thinking, and the more I realized it, the more I started having to self-actualize, and the more I thought, like, why do I react a certain way within this situation? And it was more about rejection, and I think it just came more with relationships, because that's where it all began. But I think in general, I've learned to expand that. Like, whenever I feel like I'm being rejected for an opportunity, rejected for like a partner or something like that, like I feel like I did something wrong. I think because growing up, I don't know if I told you, but my dad was an alcoholic, and so I was so close to him, and I wanted him to love me. And so in my own 6-year-old mind, I was like, all I need to do is get my dad to love me more, and then he'll stop drinking, and then he'll come home, and then he'll play with me, and he'll do all these things. But I didn't realize he had a problem, and he needed professional help. But that's how I grew up, and I didn't recognize how that was affecting me until I thought about it, until like the very first time I got dumped. And then I was like, well, why do I feel this way? I feel awful. I feel like I could have done something more. And it was because it was like I started putting my exes in a position where it's like my dad was rejecting me over and over and over again, until I realized, Jasmine, like these are completely different people, and this is something you're dealing with yourself inside, internal. That has nothing to do with your outside relationship. I always felt like I had to produce, I had to do something, and like I was never enough for my dad. And so I tried to overcompensate with everything in my life, which then brought me to my mental breakdown last summer, where I was like, I like had to leave with my aunt for 3 months and like disappear. Up and just like, I love my job. So I was a behavioral therapist. I loved it. And then one day I woke up and I was like, I don't even want to be here anymore, you know? And so then I started playing with the kids, and then I went to one of their sessions and something clicked. I was like, they made me laugh.
Yeah.
But like a very genuine laugh. Like they didn't want anything from me. They just wanted me to love them and hug them and have fun with them. And so then I got home that day and I was like, I want to feel that happiness again. And so then I quit my job that day, and I was like, I really love the kids, but what they inspired me is to find my happiness. And so then I decided I needed professional help. So I went and, you know, moved and got therapy, and I still do get therapy. And so it's just been, I'm so humbled, I think, through this entire process, because I'm learning true humility.
Yeah. That's amazing that you actually realized that the love you had for your father was kind of unhealthy, and you put that on your ex-boyfriends. Because a lot of people don't realize that, like, they go through life in that cycle and they don't know exactly why is that happening to them. So it's amazing that you had the awareness to realize that and step out of that old Jasmine and start defining love in a new way. That's amazing. Like, how did you come to that realization?
Honestly, I feel as though life has prepared me for this time. Like, it has been preparing me for each chapter in my life. And I can't pinpoint a day that it started. I think overall it was just the day that my life transformed was the day that I got dumped from someone who I sincerely was just like, I got this guy wrapped around my finger. Like, I feel like I was like, hey, he's gonna ask me to marry him. It was like, I know it's very conceited, and like, that's not who I am, or arrogant, but for some reason I just felt like I was already everything he needed, right? And then when he broke up with me, it was like, wait, what? Things were perfect. And it's like, in retrospect, I see it. No, they were not. In my head, I thought they were. And so then after that, what inspired me was when he did move on, he moved on with one of the most genuine, one of the most compassionate, kindest, like, I don't know. And so she, until this day, like, and I feel like I need to reach out to her. She doesn't even know me, but she's made such a difference in my life. Just like,
oh, wow.
He moved on with someone, because I didn't think someone like, she's always been what I wanted to be, but I didn't think someone existed like that until I met her. And then it was just like, oh my gosh, I can do that too. So yes, I think for a time I was so envious. Like, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm everything she's not, and all these things. But really what humbled me was sitting down and being like, Jasmine, we'll sit down. What everything that happened in your, like, you take responsibility for it, and now you go and work on the things you need to work on. I was like, was I really angry with him? I'm like, yes. Did I annoy him? Yes. So I was like, so it just like started this entire transformation where I took responsibility for why we broke up. No, I didn't blame it on him anymore. It was like, oh, it's because he did this. It's like, I did this to myself.
Wow.
Now let me see what I could do to work. And it wasn't until I decided to be humble and not see her as a competition anymore, but see her as my sister and my friend, and just learn from her.
Amazing. Oh my God, you're too wise for me. You're too wise. That's amazing. So, yeah, I also went through something last summer as well. I went through a breakup, and okay, before I went through the breakup, it was like a time of depression because, first of all, I didn't graduate when I was supposed to, and I wasn't hitting all my goals, and I just felt lost. You know, I had some emptiness in me. And I was like, why am I feeling this way? Like, I have so many amazing opportunities. I'm in one of the best countries in the world. Why am I not happy? And I realized this after I broke up with my girlfriend, because I went to talk to a counselor, and he helped me break down all of the things that happened in the situation. And he was like, I was seeing my life through her lens. So this is how she was experiencing life. And I was like, damn, like she's really sad. Like she'd drop hints of it sometimes. She'd be like, I feel so empty. I'm like, what? Like we're
Wait, your
having so much
girlfriend or your
fun.
counselor?
My ex-girl.
Your ex-girlfriend, okay.
Yeah. So she was saying that she felt so empty. You know Tony Robbins?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we went to a Tony Robbins seminar kind of thing, right?
Oh, cool.
And I had so much fun. I was interacting with so many people there, and she was sitting there, and she was like, yeah, I'm not feeling this. And that was the first time I knew something was wrong. So I talked to my mom, and my mom was like, yeah, not everyone's the same. Not everyone likes the same things. And I was like, okay, yeah, that could make sense. And some months further on, we broke up. We broke up several times,
Sure.
like more than usual people do. And it was painful for me because I felt like I was always breaking her heart whenever we broke up. You know, I was doing it to save her. And I think that's why the relationship was so messed up, because it was revolving around her, and I wasn't doing the things to nourish my soul, my happiness, and all of that type of stuff. So once we finally broke it off, I was like devastated. But at the same time, that's when the healing started happening.
You
and
started feeling like a relief, right?
yeah, like a weight was lifted off
Yes,
my
yes,
shoulders.
yes.
Yeah, and I was me again. I was me. That was the biggest thing. I forgot who Dash was. And I started expressing myself in so many different ways. I was happy, I was laughing more. And something that I heard is when you lose someone in your life became better, you didn't lose them, you just freed yourself. It's like, whoa. I really resonate with that. So it looks like you've been in a similar situation, or
Yeah, I think in general, if you look down to the deep core of things, I think a lot of us as humans, we experience the same trials, just in different ways. And so maybe yours was similar to mine, but I think if you like look deep into, if somebody wants to self-actualize, they might be seeing that the same fears, the same wanting of feeling loved, and like it's all the same with everyone.